Hello, guys. How are you guys tonight? Welcome to the workshop. I appreciate everybody coming out. Just a reminder, this is a workshop. It's for discussion, review, and informational purpose only. There will be no formal action, no voting. This is just strictly for discussion. Things are a little different this time with the meeting. We're going to be on YouTube. What is it, live? Is that what we call it? So it's going to be Zoom and YouTube live with ideas of being able to save it and it being uploaded a lot faster than it had been. The other thing is if you're going to speak, microphone, so that way it's clear to everybody, not just everybody in the room, but Zoom and the recording. So if we could utilize the microphone, that would be awesome. Any questions? Comments? All right. So at the beginning of this workshop, I looked back and I realized there was a few ordinances that were worked through, talked about, but then tabled. So I thought this was a perfect time to bring them back up. The three of us are new, so maybe the former supervisors or sitting supervisor before us could bring us up to speed, and you guys could put your input on them. So I'm gonna start off with the sign ordinance. Is everybody familiar? We've been working on the sign ordinance for a couple of years. Are you gonna bring it up on the screen, Nicole?
Yes.
So we have it on the screen. I don't know if necessarily we're gonna go through it line by line. All ordinances, once we get to a point of advertising, then there'll be a public meeting, and the discussion, like I said, isn't final tonight. So do you guys want to add to that?
Yeah, so the sign ordinance came up. Originally, the sign ordinance was amended prior to my coming on the board to accommodate electronic signs like the one that Bark has now. The reason for this, we felt that we needed this revision to the sign ordinances was, again, dilapidated and unattended signs, billboards. Something that would give us the legal foothold to go in and have owners of signs either remove them or update them or make changes to them if they were falling apart and just abandoned signs. So that's why we felt we needed to address the sign ordinance again. It was one of those things that I think we were close to advertising for adoption. I know, Grant, you had gone through it and you've made comments on the sign ordinance.
Yeah, I think some of my comments were just timelines of job signs. I think we took political signs out of it because we really didn't have any jurisdiction on them. They were kind of like a freedom of speech thing. The job sign question was, the way it was written is when the job's done, you had to take it out of the ground. I think we changed it to maybe a couple days, 10 days, or I'm sorry, you guys changed it to 10 days. So I did talk to Todd a little bit and he brought up the political signs. He just wanted to make sure that we, we're understanding why that was out or why the liability would be to leave it in. The non-conforming signs, he just wanted to make sure we follow the MPC requirements for non-conforming structures. And then enforcement and trackers in the MPC section 6161 to clarify the appeal criteria for the board review. We just wanted to make sure we went over that good. Did we have any comments on the sign ordinance or input?
Question?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you guys to use the microphone if you don't mind. And And then you, Frank?
Sounds great. The sign ordinance, who enforces it, who inspects it, who decides what signs are what? Is that anywhere in the meeting or notes?
Yeah, so it's a zoning ordinance, so they would apply for a permit. Enforcement would be through zoning. Unless it was a structure, then it could get into building if a building permit was required.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Frank? Oh, yeah, all right.
Hi, Frank Andrew. On the sign ordinance for the temporary signs. So somebody gets a job, does their job site, they're finished with the project, 10 days. That's it.
I'm gonna have to find it, but I'm
I
pretty sure.
personally think they should be allowed a little longer than that.
What's your recommendation?
I think 30 days is fair. I think people spend a bunch for those signs and they're trying to, get more business by, by having them.
Actually, it is 30 days.
Okay, okay.
Limited duration sign,
Page are we on here?
I think 6.
Oh, mine doesn't have any page numbers.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, and so I'm probably,
30
that's what
days.
it was. Originally was 10 and then Grant's recommendation.
Yeah, it says temporary signs displayed 30 days or fewer.
Hi,
Look, what's your name?
Cindy Phillips. My question was just if a sign was deemed by the investigators to be in nonconformity, would there be some time allowed to make any repairs that were needed before it had to be removed?
You mean in violation, to the sign ordinance. I believe that that's outlined. Towards the back.
I need a section. To find it.
Um. 40717. Did you find that, Nicole?
Okay.
I mean, we always allow time, nothing's, you have to do this today. Let me just try to find the time on.
Okay, actually, that answer was good enough, but we'll.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's the 30-day notice. Is that what it says on there, Nicole?
I'll get those.
All right, thank you. Peter?
Yes, when we were reviewing it a couple months ago, I'd asked about, and I don't know where we ended up on it or if it was changing there, if you remember, if it was someone. Business, either moved or went out of business and they were only giving a very short window to either replace a sign or take it down, which didn't give enough time for a business to advertise and get a new tenant in there. Without losing their restrictions with where they had in the sign, where we ended up on a time with that, right? I believe we were talking about that we were gonna give.
Let me just double check
90
that.
days.
Yeah, maybe we should have went line item by line item.
I'm sorry, I should have had that in front of me.
No, that's okay.
That's-
No.
I do know that it also allows just for that sign, so the business that left, if it's the type of sign that just could be painted over. It's allowable to just paint over it, so it's just a blank sign, doesn't say anything.
Yeah, because, at the discussion was that if the business left, they would want the sign down within 30 days. So what you're saying is, because they didn't want signs staying there forever, but at the same time, you didn't want to
Must be
lose,
blank, yeah.
lose that. The grandfather of the size of the sign.
Right.
Because it was.
Well, Darrell, I would think if it's painted over, then there should be no time limit at that point.
Right, that's
Once it's painted, then there should be no time limit.
You're not gonna lose your non-conformity.
Correct.
Right. Yeah, I don't think you'll have to take the structure down as long as it's in good condition and not a business that's not there. I'll make a note of that.
It should be put in there then.
Yeah,
Nicole?
It does say that 30 days is permitted to abate a violation.
okay. I made a note of that, Peter, and I'll follow up on it. I'm not finding exactly where it is right now. Hey, Carol.
I just wanted to ask for Carla, cause she's not here.
Okay.
per sign for like Christmas trees, a seasonal sign, what would the limitations be on that?
So there is a permit for that, it's a temporary sign.
Yeah,
What's that? Oh, yeah, Carla's here.
I'm asking for you. Carla. 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 I'm speaking for you. She's ignoring me. I guess she doesn't care.
What? I don't care about what.
Good.
I'm asking about your Christmas tree sign.
Oh.
They're talking about signs.
I think in 4079, it says,
Do I need a permit? Is that something?
Well, you do need a permit. I'm asking, how it's allowed. There are certain times and stuff, limits.
For our sign to go up?
I don't know, that's what I'm waiting to
Ours
find out.
got stolen, so it doesn't matter anymore.
You're not gonna get into one?
Hey, guys,
okay,
let's just try to keep the conversation this way instead of that way, so.
so in 4079 temporary signs, it says they should have a permit and displayed up to 30 consecutive days, no more than 6 times per calendar year. So
It's only once.
I don't imagine you'd want a Christmas tree sign up more than 30 days before Christmas. Your tree might die.
Thank you.
We're 30 days after.
Oh, 30 days
Right, and I think
You
you
can have it
can
for 30-day times, so.
Yeah.
Oh.
Did that answer that, Carol?
Is that a,
Does that answer? Yes.
okay,
All right.
It's not.
a lot of reading to try to find all these sections.
Sorry. These look different. My question is now, eggs. So if I put a sign for eggs, I have them 3 months. I would have to buy a permit every single month.
No, what that just said is, the permit's good for 30 days, but you can have, it's good for 6 30-day periods.
Oh, okay. So
That's what it just said.
Just, that, 6 different times, right?
That's what I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is under limited duration signs, ones that you just put up for a specific
Holiday or something.
thing, you know, that you're just doing. So,
So that would be 180 days. Even though it says 30 days, but it says 6 times.
See, the payment on my wood is still
Okay,
separate.
so in 4078 R, there's temporary seasonal farm product signs
Okay.
to advertise the availability of seasonal farm products. 2 per premises, a maximum of 32 square feet. On the premises where the products are sold, can't be more than 15 feet high, and should be not more than 15 days before the harvest or 10 days after the end of the harvest. But if the harvest is going all summer or you're getting eggs, I think chickens generally don't produce many in the winter, but so I don't know if they'd be considered seasonal,
They produce something.
but your farm products are allowed to be sold.
Got anything else, Sarah? Patty? Bill?
No, I think we've covered pretty much all of the things. There were some typos the first time around, and we looked at the fact that supervisors could do a waiver on a non-conforming sign if there was a problem getting it down
Right.
a time, you know,
Or
middle
winter
of winter,
construction.
whatever. If it was damaged and then you had to fix it, there was the supervisors can say, obviously, it's been snow on the ground, you can't fix your sign. So,
Yeah, so I think the process there was you come in, you'd ask for an extension.
Yeah.
You'd say because of snow, ice, winter, took too long to get a sign, and then there's provision for that to be granted. So I think other than the time limit on the sign for out of business and getting that defined up, I think we're pretty good.
And putting a meaning into that,
Yes,
right?
yeah, a
It's
definition,
painted over and it's maintained.
right?
One more question, now I haven't looked at the ordinance again recently. At one point, there was a provision in there, maybe it was an earlier copy that I saw, but at one point, there was provision for those digital signs. Which aren't really signs or TV screens or whatever, but those. There was one in there that said like 8 feet by 40 feet or something ridiculous. Did that change?
I could see that.
It might have been an earlier version, but
Yeah,
is there a sign restriction or a size restriction on that type of digital changeable message?
I think there's a sign on digital signs, where it is, I don't remember.
You know,
Yeah,
because
there's a whole section on
Yeah.
the electronic signs.
Condenses, the amount of light they shut off, so. That would be pretty obnoxious to see one that large.
What's a standard size with that, Frank?
I don't really know, but I would say 4x8, 5x10 would be a huge one for this area.
Okay,
You know,
So-
our traffic travels at 35, 45, you know.
40714, electronic message signs.
Mhm.
A maximum of 15 square feet.
Okay, so that's 3 by 5,
And-
so that's that, yeah.
And no higher than 15 feet high.
No higher than 15 high and, a minimum duration of 15 seconds, so it's not changing every.
Sure.
And then there's
Okay.
also, brightness,
Yeah.
regulations. I mean,
Yeah,
foot candles. That's the new thing.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. I remember seeing that. It was like the size of a tractor trailer or something. Definition. Good progress. Think we're good. Ready to move on, guys?
Okay. One down, 9 million to go.
So, and the idea is just to keep the conversation open so we don't go stale. So I'm gonna go into the property maintenance ordinance. This was brought up, early summer. We all know the uproar. Then it went to the planning commission. The planning commission got through it with some comments at the December 3rd meeting, and they passed it back to us, so that's why I put it on our plate, because it's our turn now, so let's review that. Do you have the comments from the planning commission?
I do.
Okay, so I'm leaning on Patty a lot because she sat on the planning commission with Bill, and I figured we can go through those comments from the planning commission. Is everybody familiar with the property maintenance codes that we're talking about? Okay. Go ahead, Patty, if you want.
Okay, well, the first thing is that the planning commission was really trying to see where we had existing ordinances and why we were adding them, and I had tried to explain when we first got these new ordinances that a lot of them were just samples. And we were gonna go through the samples and decide what we wanted to keep and what we weren't going to keep. And so it happened that a lot of people got very upset about some of the things that were in this property maintenance, which we weren't even gonna consider once we read through them. They were just presented to us as a sample. So when we got this, as far as the different parts, one of the big things that the planning commission was looking at was what we wanted to keep out of the 2024 IPMC, which is what the state has, building codes. And so it was a little bit difficult to separate the building code from property maintenance. And that's where we kind of bogged down. And I really think, that we need to look at the building codes and what we want to keep out of that part, and then keep that separate from property maintenance and the whole idea of what you can have on your property and what you can't. So I think it behooves us to look at the building codes right now, which is pretty cut and dried. We're either going to accept this or we're not.
Right.
And then discuss the ins and outs of property maintenance and,
So my idea with the building codes is, they're a pretty industry standard thing, so I don't know if we wanna go through and start changing building codes within our township.
no, it was just what we were gonna keep. For example, there's whole sections on mechanical equipment.
I thought we just took that out already.
And-
I don't even think that that's on the table right now, Betty. Was it?
Well,
There was some questions, Grant, that were brought up from planning commission before you, were on the board, and I don't know if they ever got addressed or not.
So I think I have it
Like the
right
board
here.
felt, right?
So it says brick window reviewed where the discussion left off, October 7th. Like the accumulation of discarded items on properties, Brick asked the board how many days is appropriate. I think it said 30, and the planning commission recommended 60 days. Removal of the last sentence on 375-8C. So my idea was is just to go through the planning commission's recommendations and see if we agreed with them, and then we could come up with a new draft, and then we could have a meeting reviewing that. So that was kind of my idea of this workshop, was to go through these planning commission meetings, minutes, and say, you know, just have our own discussion about it. Is 60 days better than 7 consecutive days, which an operable vehicle may be parked outdoors? I think that's unregistered, non-inspected vehicles. Do we give them 60 days or do we give them 7 days? And again, we're not making any decisions here. We're just having an open conversation of how long do we think we should let a vehicle be abandoned on a property, once we enforce it, put a notice on them. I think 60 days is almost too long. I mean, you could pick up the phone and call many tow trucks, scrap collectors, or sell it easily in 30 days, I think.
I think if you run through the list from planning commission, I don't think it ever went any further than that.
Okay,
All right, so I think that's where it needs to be picked up from, of the recommendation from planning commission, and then run through those recommendations and fine tune where they left off, because I think that's.
so you
where
think we should just do a red line of the planning commissions onto a new draft,
Correct.
and then we'll see if that's what we're gonna
the
advertise.
supervisors never looked at the planning commission's recommendation.
That's what we're doing right now.
Right.
Yeah.
So it hadn't been done before, so it's not incorporated in
Okay,
any.
my idea is I didn't wanna take the planning commission's recommendations and then us sit behind closed doors and read through them and then come out with a draft. So I wanted to have this public workshop so we could kind of say, okay, here's the planning commission stuff. And then when we come out with the draft, no one can say, hey, you guys didn't talk about that. Where'd that come from? You know, so,
Absolutely.
that's why I wanted to put these ordinances in front of us. So if we agree that that's what we're gonna do, we're gonna pull these planning commission, which we're lucky we have 2 planning commission board members sitting with us. So I think we should take their recommendations seriously. I mean, some of them I disagree with, but then we'll come back to the table with
Okay,
our recommendations in a clean draft, and we'll print it so everybody has it. I think that should be our plan. Everything
So
else?
by the next workshop.
Yeah, I think the next workshop we're doing it, And then hopefully we can get them in a real meeting where we can make some decisions after the next workshop.
Okay, then I misunderstood what you were asking for.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Basically, it's just to revisit the
So-
conversation. I don't wanna leave them blank.
so are we gonna look through this now, or we're gonna do it on our own and compare them?
I think we should do it on our own and bring it back to another workshop. This is
Okay.
just to keep the conversation going, knowing the planning commission talked about it, we're gonna talk about it, and go from there. And then it gives Sean a chance to get up to speed. I mean, really, he's the one that's really new to this. I fairly new other than sitting on that side. You and Bill have some experience and you have some, so. Does that work for you guys?
Well, I think it's the right thing to do. The planning commission took the time to go through and address those issues, and I think we have the right to look at it
Yeah,
and then move on from there.
and we never got to the point of taking it to the supervisors, so.
Correct. When you say take it to the supervisors, does that mean somebody's gonna draft something from the planning commission? Or we gotta pull it
This
from the
was
minutes?
it
From the minutes?
from the minutes.
Okay,
And
perfect.
then the minutes never got to the planning commission to be reviewed because we got caught up in the data center, trying to get ahead of that. And this kind of got put aside.
Understood.
When was that planning commission?
December 3rd. I think the data center was passed before this meeting.
And when did
Yeah,
they bounce it back to the supervisors?
It hasn't officially got back to us, we just have the minutes. So if you guys were gonna bring something official other than the minutes, but I'm fine with the minutes.
Well, I think the minutes were the official, we just haven't had another planning.
So you're
commission.
saying the planning commission hasn't approved the minutes to bounce it back?
Right,
Understood.
and that's because we haven't had
So the way,
weather and.
yeah, the way the process works is the planning commission would then have these minutes on their table. And they would open it by approving their own minutes, so they haven't had a meeting, so they haven't officially bounced it back. I threw it on this agenda just because I don't want it to get left by the wayside. I wanna keep the conversation going. I think all these are important, you know, our property maintenance are fairly old and they don't really have any enforcement actions on them. So that's kind of why they're on this agenda.
Okay,
Any other questions about property maintenance?
Who would
Just the-
enforce, who would report?
So there's a combination, so zoning would enforce the zoning regulations and then whatever's building would be our building codes enforcement officer.
How many full-time employees do we have of that for zoning and?
I hate to be a stickler and I know we're just having a conversation, but it's tough with the reporting. So we have a building codes officer, we have an alternate, we have a zoning officer and an alternate zoning officer. They're not full-time except for our zoning officer.
Okay, so even if we would have approved all of this and said, we're gonna go get everybody that's out of compliance, we don't have the manpower to do that right now.
But we can't approve anything at a workshop.
No, I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't think that ever the idea is to just go after somebody. I think the idea is,
But, wait, isn't it? I mean, we haven't for months and months and months and thousands of dollars are.
Right.
So aren't we saying, yeah,
but what I'm saying is I'm not gonna put a person in a Barrett Township car full-time just driving around. We don't have the manpower for it right now, I think is what you're getting at. Do you guys agree? That we're just not gonna like set up an enforcement action to hit every single property?
then
well, we
isn't that
do
what this
have-
process is? You say, these are the rules. The people that break it, we are going to fine you and send people to your property. So, yeah, we need.
So I mean, I do
Boots on the
think that
ground.
there has to be a pecking order, you know what I mean? You don't just go to each property, find a action, because most properties probably do have a violation. You start at the worst and go to the best.
Sure.
You know, and it gives us an action for when we do have complaints, that we can handle them appropriately.
And we do have a building codes company that's ready to
Okay.
start, you
So
know,
when was the last time anybody went anywhere that, just to update us? And went and said, I'm writing you up, besides the $5,000, that was for something else, because they did something, but actively, how much income has come in from code enforcement and violations?
Income, I don't think we have income for code enforcement. I think on our,
And
hang on there one second. I think on our budget last year, I don't even think the line item
was
was
zero,
zero. Right?
right?
Yeah.
So now we don't want it to be zero.
And I'm gonna be honest with you, we're not looking at it as a money-making grab. I'm just looking at it as property maintenance to, you know, be good neighbors, to have a clean neighborhood.
Sure.
I would way rather people voluntarily, be in compliance.
Sure,
You know,
I
I-
mean, we set up a group of volunteers that when it's a little old lady who can't mow, we're gonna mow for her.
Mhm.
I'm not out for
That's awesome.
blood. That's
Right.
not the point, but when it was zero then, and now we're in mid-March and it's still, yep, we're not sending people around,
So-
that was the point.
So the idea is we need to do this first. We need to update our property maintenance. The property maintenance we have doesn't allow for us to just go find somebody. We have to take them to court. It's a long process. We have to go sit in front of the judge. The idea is voluntary compliance, but we need to get up to speed also. Our last property maintenance was 15 years ago. So I feel kind of like, why start on a 15-year-old set of rules?
Right, that was when I moved here last summer, that was my first meeting I came to and I got the PMC and I learned and took home and
Yeah.
and taught my 91-year-old mother, this is what we're doing.
Right.
And now tonight, I'm gonna go home and say, still doing it.
Yeah, so you gotta remember data center got in the middle of it, short-term rentals got in the middle of it, vacancies, resignment, stuff like that. So that's why I wanted to put it on the workshop, keep it fresh, keep it in front of us. But there's also a procedure because, okay, now we have the next workshop. Then we're gonna have to do a meeting, then we're gonna have to advertise it for 30 days. So that's why it's important to keep it on the table and keep it on the plate.
But I also think one of the things she's asking is that there's still violations getting enforced.
Oh, definitely.
And it's not that nothing's not getting enforced right now.
Okay,
That's what
Well,
I'm hearing her answer. It's not that it's at a standstill and no violations are not getting enforced.
Okay.
They are.
Hear
They
about
are.
that.
Because with a $0 for fines, that means that everybody is pristine. In my viewpoint, I'm a former professional
Mhm.
contractor myself. I understand the process. I've been a building inspector. I've been an emergency hazard inspector for the federal government. I've done a lot of things in my business.
So I wanna go back to that zero real quick. We cannot issue a fine out of Barrett Township. I can't give you a fine.
Mhm.
That's part of the problem with the property maintenance.
Right.
We have to go to the court system.
Are we trying to streamline that? Is there a way we can streamline that?
It's in the
Because it
process.
doesn't, from what I've seen from the meetings we've had, I don't know, we do have a building code inspector. What is he doing? Where is he at?
Well, Grant mentioned that what we hope to have happen is voluntary compliance. If we go and say that this is out of compliance, you're in violation.
This is America. You will definitely have non-compliant people.
Right, but and Barrett Township isn't the only group. I worked for the Conservation District for 20 years and you're in violation of the Conservation District. The first thing is get them in compliance.
Right.
So
and-
voluntary compliance doesn't come with a penalty.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't come
with
with
a penalty.
penalty.
But what's happening here though is we've got many bad actors. We've got pizza
Right,
parlors
and we have,
being run out of private homes.
But what the new codes is doing is putting it more into our hands and being able to enforce it.
With
Right
some,
now, we
with some
don't-
flexibility for the fact that we are still
A small
a
town.
small community. Yeah,
We don't have the tools in our current ordinances to enforce it streamlining. We have to write letters, wait, go to the judge, and then it becomes a drawn out process.
well, I'll volunteer to help in that process in any way that I can. If you need somebody for backing up, I'd love to shadow the building inspector, see what the hell he does.
All right, thank you.
Because it's just something that I've seen from what our previous problems are. I'm not sure that it's invisible.
Mhm.
And now we're gonna ask them also to enforce signs. We're gonna add more material.
We have a signed ordinance, this is just updating.
It's an ordinance, but who enforces it?
Again, we have to have the fineage in the ordinance, or the fines in the ordinance, we don't have that right.
Okay, and we are working on, that's what this workshop is supposed to be. for.
Correct.
and that was so going back before Grant. Maybe even while Billy previously was a supervisor. One of the reasons for updating the sign ordinance and the property maintenance ordinances is because of the perceived blight in the township
Mhm.
and the fact that the existing ordinances we had did not give us the teeth to really seriously address it.
That's the word.
Right, and so it,
And that's it.
We have to have it, we don't have to use them.
Gotcha.
That's why it needs to be a priority. It's
Yes.
9 months that we're talking about these ordinances.
Well, the one thing I will say is the data center became the priority and it did push it out. So that's why we have it back on the table. We gotta keep it moving. That's why we're here.
Krista Palucci, Monadnock Road.
Here, Krista.
Hey. So, I just wanna make sure that when we're putting together these ordinances and we're voting on things, that there's an appeal process, obviously,
There is.
right? I understand that an appeal process, if somebody appeals it, the township needs to be able to cover the cost of whatever that appeal is, but to not go above that in excess.
Mhm.
So for instance, I received a building.
Luxurious venue, hotel, and spa, complete with the original 40-foot vault.
Violation to building code at all, yet I was issued a violation. And when I spoke with the building code officer and said, you're issuing me a violation on a structure that's not subject to building code at all,
Mhm.
I got an enormous amount of pushback.
Right. So I do a little bit with the code, although you didn't need a building, permit for under 1,000 square feet, you still have to maintain that building.
Sure.
So it's the property maintenance part of it that probably came up.
Right, but my concern was when I went to say, hey, this is not okay that you're issuing this to me for this structure in particular. I was basically told, send it to appeals, and I was actually told that the appeals process would cost $1,200, when in reality it was less than that, but still I think it was $500 or $600.
Mhm.
That's a little bit more than most people can afford to pay to
Right.
appeal something,
So we'll definitely go.
I wanna
over
make sure
the
that it's
appeal
within the
cost.
realm of, that people can afford to appeal it when they have a legitimate appeal while still covering the township's expense
Understood.
to help hold the appeal.
So we'll look into the appeal cost, for the property maintenance.
Thank you.
Thank you, Krista.
like Daryl said, we're trying to get people to go in compliance. We're not trying to go around and
I think
find them.
I think what she was talking
Randomly.
about, if you feel you are in compliance and you wanna appeal it, to not make it, too expensive, the average person couldn't appeal it. So I think that was her point.
Especially when it comes to things like signage.
Mhm.
Understood.
So we'll look at the cost of the appeal process and make sure that it, strictly only covers our costs and there's no, excess there. Everybody in agreement on the property maintenance, so we just keep working on them, and like Peter said, get them going and spend 9 months. Alright,
Yes.
we got homework to do. Again, when we're talking about ordinance, our short-term rental ordinance was brought in 2019. And that's another one that's really, really outdated. So along with the violation process of that, every time there's a violation, we have to, mail a letter, hope they get into volunteer compliance, but then it goes right to the court. It's a long, strung out process that, along with other problems in the ordinance that needs tightened up, I think that's another one that we all need to do our homework on and come back to the next workshop with ideas. Any, comments?
Yeah.
Sorry, Bill.
Hi there again.
You can just take it home with, to bring it to your seat.
For those gentlemen, welcome, by the way. I don't know how everything happened and how you're there, but thank you for being services on our board. We appreciate that. We need all the help we can get here. Short-term rentals, and my understanding, I was hearing something about increased fees
Correct, we increased the fees, I believe, 2 meetings ago. The
by
fee schedule.
a large amount, 100+%, is that correct? And why is that happening? My question is,
Because our fees inside the office are exorbitant and we're just trying to recoup our costs of it. Again, we're trying to build our short-term rental program. We don't wanna abandon them, we don't want to, well, I'm saying this on me, I don't want to be a non-welcoming short-term rental place, but I also don't want a single short-term rental costing taxpayers an absorbent amount of money. So say it goes above their fees of what it costs to do business with them. I have to spread it to you, I have to spread it to you, I have to spread it to you, and you don't even own a short-term rental. So I'm trying to build our office staff and software and ordinances responsibly, and that takes money.
Yeah, I understand, but here's something else that I understand is we seem to still have literally hundreds of illegal Airbnbs that aren't registered.
So I think that that's why we're talking about the short-term rental ordinance.
But we're gonna increase the fees for those people who are currently paying the fees, and we're not doing a whole hell of a lot about the scoff.
We're doing everything we could do within our ordinance, mailing letters, stuff like that. We need to redo our ordinance, and put the fees and fines in our hands, not the judge's hands.
Yes.
So by the time we send it, we do a notification, we get a court case, you know, we get a judgment. We can't just go there and chain their doors.
Is this something, again, now, I'm not familiar with the process as far as what happens legally. Has anyone been through that process fully, that we've had to do this as a township? Have we followed that through and taken one scoff law or one bad property owner and followed it through to the very end? Have
Yes.
we gone to court?
Yeah.
How long did it take? And was the court long in judgment, or was the judge able to look at the stuff and the court says, obviously,
So it was about a 6-month long process.
okay,
We did go to the court, we were judged in our favor, and we got a piece of paper that said, you won and you're owed this much money.
and they won't pay?
I haven't got that far yet. So
And we don't so far have a mechanism to do anything about that.
that's the whole
The
ordinance.
property is here.
We're trying to strengthen up the ordinances, and a lot of the ideas is if we get that far, you're not, you know, my ideas, and I'm just saying this as a workshop. You know, you revoke your privileges for a short-term rental in our township if we have to go that far.
But they don't have the privileges to begin with, and they're already short-term.
But
rentals.
again,
That's,
you know, that's the problem with laws and ordinances and codes. We got a speed limit in town, but I can't just walk every car through town. You know what I mean? We can enforce it, we can pull them over, but if you don't see it, someone's gonna speed. You probably sped on the way here. I can tell by the way you're
no,
smiling.
he
Yes, we did.
Well, what I'm saying is we are putting the tools in place, and that's what, that's why when we're talking about ordinances, that's what we're working towards. Believe me, we don't want, unregulated short-term rentals that are nuisances to the neighborhood, the environment, stuff like that. I do feel like.
right now, the burden right now, really because of the loss of business.
A 150% increase from $300 to $750. We wouldn't have been able to bear it.
So here's my question, and again, this is just me talking out loud, that, do you want the short-term rental owners to pay for it, or do you want all the taxpayers in Barrett Township to pay for it?
It's a county and township problem, and therefore the township as a whole
Okay,
needs to be responsible.
understood.
And that's just gonna, I hopefully will spur other folks to say, yo,
And I did say that this is, you know, we have to do something and we're gonna reevaluate them. Just like we changed it to increase them, I'm not gonna say one day we don't have the discussion and say, hey, things are streamlining. It don't cost us this much.
we have to adapt.
We're not in the, right, we're not in the business of making money. We're just in the business of
No one,
not
no one wants
taxing
to,
unfairly.
I'm sorry, no one wants to try to make money. The whole point is to get these people to either be legal or not be.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
And if they pay their fees, that's gonna put money into the coffers of the county and the township.
Mhm.
And if they stay within legal limits as far as what they have to do for safety,
Right.
that will also do things for us.
And that's why I'm challenging everybody to come up with great ideas for these ordinances, educate yourself on existing and ideas. When we come back, we can have really good workshops and actually put the pen to paper.
I love that. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Jeff.
We did not pay him to say that.
No,
I don't believe
I'm just reacting.
All right, guys, Chris,
On the tail of that, and I'm gonna speak very clearly into the microphone, that as a property owner who does not have any short-term rentals, I absolutely refuse to pay
I hear you.
for the cost of anyone else's short-term rentals. That cost gets passed on to your customers and your rentals. And if anybody wants the rest of the town to pay for those expenses. I will fight that tooth and nail.
Thanks, Krista.
That's good. I like that.
Sorry. No.
Who, is it a race?
Carol and I probably are gonna say the same thing. Go ahead, Carol. Go ahead and say I want to see if you're
Just
saying the same
wanna
thing.
know if there's been any thought to limiting Airbnbs to the residential community, because
Carol was I'm gonna go sit down.
I will say that that's a very, very popular thing in townships around us lately.
because just this last week, I had 4 people say to me, why is there no place to rent in Barrett?
Right. I mean, I think
We're
we're
lit-
gonna take.
Losing sales and we're losing rentals,
Mhm.
which people live in and pay taxes.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Paradise and Pocono were brought up in a meeting a little while ago, and I don't think they allow them in residential districts, so.
No R1,
No R1.
no R1, no
Correct.
Hamilton.
So I mean, we are looking at everybody around us and just trying to come up with the best ordinance.
Yeah, cause they're buying up everything.
Understood.
Add to that, sorry.
Good.
You guys know what they mean by like the town.
Yeah, no, and
We're
again.
only gonna have this many.
I'm not sure I understand completely.
I don't-
So I will,
Not-
this is where
Not
you're.
limiting the number. Like total number of Airbnbs, but what zones they're allowed.
No, they limit the number.
No, they limit the
cap-
number,
And the amount of people in them, no matter how big it is.
yes.
Yeah, like saying we're only gonna have 50 permits. Other
I-
townships have done that.
I would encourage and challenge this board to go to the other township meetings in the next couple of months. And go and sit and listen to Pocono, Toby Hanna, Tunkhannock. Pocono allows it only in business 1 and 2. There is no residential. Paradise does not allow it in residential. They do have grandfathered several properties that were grandfathered. But other than that, they do not allow it in residential zoning. Only commercial. Mount Pocono Borough, commercial only. Hamilton Township, non-existent. Business only, business district. Poolba, who welcomes it with open arms, has always been, because they're 90% HOA developments in Poolba Township. They have a very rigid structure. Their permitting and their township officer are on this. They have assistants. They have over 1,400 STRs. And they can afford, because they have over 1,400
Well, he
SDRs.
says they have 2 assistants. They actually have 2 people that just work on short-term rentals.
And the zoning officer
Right.
and enforcement. And enforcement is necessary in order for them to maintain. They also work with the HOAs that have their own fees. And those fees are considered at township meeting, to everyone. Pocono Farms has their fees, PCP has their fees. They all have their own fees. And so because they have so many, they're able to charge $200, $300 for a permit. We do not have hundreds of STRs here. We don't have them here. But we do have about, right now, 50 some that have been identified. We probably have about 20, 30 more that need to be identified. But we don't have hundreds of
Are
STRs.
they all been cut down from the list?
Well, no, we just don't have that kind of population that is doing it. We also don't have HOAs that allow it. You have Lake of the Clouds does not permit STR. You have the Hamlet, which I do not believe permits STR. So,
But they're there.
well, we have to find them, but yes, they're there. But the point of the matter is you don't have 1,400 to absorb a software program, which is still needed, whether you have 40 or 1,400. You need that software program, you need money to buy those things. And like Grant said, to his point, once they get that, maybe those fees that were just increased will be looked at to be reduced. But we have spot zoning here, so it's very difficult because I live on a road that might have a commercial and I'm in a residential, and then I have a multifamily right next to me. So many of the townships had problems with that, with the zoning. And so they've just eliminated it completely, Krista, in residential area. So,
So I'm not saying to eliminate short-term.
and neither am I, but there are certain areas that it does interfere with the quality of life and the neighborhood and what's going on in those neighborhoods. So, I mean, if you have an area that was conditionally, welcome for, vacation, that's perfect, right? That area was intended for vacation. But if you're in an area on, 6 acres and you have a farm and you have cattle and you were a farmer, well, you probably weren't thinking about Airbnb way back then, right? So it's the area in which it's conducive to. So developments, they were built for that. But anyway, I just wanted to say that that's why the fees need to,
Jen,
Yeah.
how many do you feel are not conforming? Out of the 90 that you think we have around here?
90 plus that are not conforming.
What was, I know we've had, it's just, we end up with side conversation, it's just hard to keep track
Yeah,
of.
she
So
said she thinks how many are not conforming. I mean, out of the ones that we've identified, there have been at least, I would say, a third for sure that were non-conforming, but
yeah, I think the hard part is they pop up, they're rented for 40 days, then they come on, then they go back on short term. So we are identifying quite a few and, with the help of Jen and Carla. But, the hard part is they're not conforming to an ordinance that doesn't give us a lot of tools to make them conform. So that's why I said, although, trying to find offenders, that's great, but we really need to spend some time on getting a new ordinance on the books, that helps us, and then we can make these tough decisions. It's gonna affect somebody. Somebody's not gonna be happy with us, but the key is to have responsible, short-term rental.
Does the average Joe know that they're non-conforming? Like,
Yeah.
once this is put into place,
So I mean, I would hope so, and I only look at it from my end, if I was gonna buy a house for a short-term rental, the first thing I would do is my due diligence.
like leave and rent their house out and go somewhere else, they might not be aware that they're not.
And I agree, and I'd like to think that they do their due diligence, since it's a pretty hot topic thing, but I do think
Doing like
education.
push.
And it is a front tab on our website, and we can put stuff out, but again, I don't wanna publish stuff until we update our ordinance, because. Then there's gonna be confusion when, oh man, you just made me do this, and now it's 100% different a month later when they reapply the year after. But I think we're doing a great job. My goal at the end of Q1 was to have all advertised short-term rental voluntarily in compliance or under violation, and I don't know if we'll 100% be there, but man, we've been making a great effort with the BTCC, and I do feel like we've made a lot of gains on it. What do you guys think?
Well, and I agree that, right, if you're the average Joe and you didn't know. But then you would get the letter that says, now you need to be in
I think
compliance.
once this is done, maybe do a blast out.
Right,
that
definitely,
people are
no, I
aware.
agree, and education's everything, and awareness. There's an extreme amount of hours to find them, and I think Carla and Jen, I wouldn't even dare to know how many hours.
Definitely have to thank
You
you.
guys have for digging in and showing us all this, because it's not just call it Airbnb, what we call them all. There's VRBO, there's private sites, there's people that are just doing it.
But you've never.
Right. Alrighty, I think we got a lot of great information on SDR. Any more comments? Any more from the board? Gonna move on to Earth Day. So the High Acres Park Committee is having an Earth Day celebration April 25th, and I believe you guys are jumping on it with picking up the Poconos, which is the first time Barrett Township has participated in it.
Yeah, thank you for that.
So
Thank you.
you can go online and volunteer and they'll tell you more about it. But basically, we're gonna be there at 9 o'clock at High Acres and they're gonna give us little
Dress to bags and gloves.
gloves.
I've always been sent to the raceway whenever I had signed up for that, because there wasn't anything
Right.
available.
Yeah,
So I'm happy to see that.
Yeah.
Because we have places that need to be cleaned, so.
We have
Sure.
set up for adults basically on the main roads, but for the kids to go to the parks and clean up around the trails and around the
Yeah.
parking lots and get them involved at a young age, so.
I mean, I'd be happy to provide like refreshments to any volunteers that come and do that. I don't know if you have anything like that planned, but.
I think for right now, it's in the planning, so.
Yeah, we didn't have anything planned other than registering them and getting them
I'd love
out,
to
but
provide.
Oh, yes,
some
feed
snacks.
the volunteers.
feed the volunteers.
What time are you guys starting that?
Well, it's 9:30, it says on the
Yeah.
website,
That's
so
what-
our plan was to be there at 9 o'clock so that we could get there
That's
and
wonderful.
get folks registered, and that's
Can I
the
make a
25th.
suggestion that, we have, maybe pick a couple of roads to reserve for families with children that'll.
Well, I think we're gonna put the kids in the parks. I
Yeah,
don't
is that
think
what
we
we're
want the
doing, like the
kids off
trails
the
and
road.
stuff?
Is that-
Yeah.
we don't want
Parking
them,
lots or
I used to
whatever.
do
Well,
it,
the open space, like the open space properties, not just High Acres, but
yeah, all around,
Grable, the dog park, and, yeah.
Perfect.
They wanted us to have designated areas safe for
Right,
families
yeah.
and children.
Yeah, we'll start pushing that information out very soon.
That's really exciting. Thank you for doing.
Great problem. Everybody good on Earth Day and picking up the book of those? Yep. Excellent. West Nile virus hotspot info. So I'm going to let the West Nile virus hotspot guy talk about it.
I think it was back in February, like February 11th, there was, Patty gave some information for a hotspot that was in Barrett Township.
So a hotspot means a place that was tested positive.
Mhm,
Okay.
yes. So I was able to contact them, and Aaron Lambert is in charge of that program. And he had indicated that the hotspot was the wastewater treatment facility at the Wisteria Commons. So for that, they said there was two main reasons for that, one being the elderly, and then the kids at Evergreen. And the organic material within the wastewater treatment facility. He said he would be able to treat that, he needed additional information. So with talking with the board, I'm gonna get some information for some of the other wastewater treatment plants that might be in Barrett Township. And then they can get the contact information for him. And then if need be, he can at least test those facilities and then also treat those facilities.
When you say treating, do you know what treating is? Is it chemical spray of a broad area or is it directly in the treatment facility? Cause I think that's a wastewater treatment facility. Do they just treat the water there or is it airborne? Or is that information you're gonna get for us?
He did say that there's different ways that they can treat it, so the vegetation around those facilities would be one way.
Okay.
And then they could treat the water, they do have machines that they can put in back of vehicles that they can also spray. So there's different ways that they can do an application. I'm sure there's more efficient ways than others, but I think he had mentioned treating the actual facility itself with some kind of water treatment.
Okay, I just know there was concerns of spraying from somebody I seen commented on our Facebook page, so.
Right, typically what they like to do is treat the larval stage.
Okay,
So if they get a hit, they get a hit on larva. They're not sampling flying mosquitoes, they're sampling the larvae in the pools. So if they get a hit, then they treat it with the larvicide, which is a bacterial agent, not a chemical agent.
yeah, and if you go out in your yard now that spring is coming. And find any standing water, even if it's a tire swing, or I was just fixing the tarp that blew in the big wind over my wood pile. And in those few warm days we had, I had standing water under the tarp in the little folds that I had to clean out. So your gutters, if they're catching water and it stays there, it only takes, I think, a week for mosquitoes to hatch and be flying around, so you have to be really careful that kids' toys outside, tools that you leave around, you wanna make sure that they don't hold water.
In previous years, I think that they've sprayed for black fly. And I don't, if you know anything about that,
I don't-
black flies have been terrible over the last 2 years.
yeah, I don't think, was the township involved in the spraying?
No. No, we don't do.
Alright, so we'll bring back some more information on that and then give them the ideas of where to test.
And he did offer, he could either do a presentation at a meeting like this, or if he wanted, at a township function, he could be, I think some of them we do have vendors. So he could be one of the vendors there and have information.
I think it would be awesome for him to tag on to Earth Day. I don't know, I think it's a concern and the treatment's a
Good idea.
concern.
I'll have to check to see what is, might be pretty busy that day, but yeah, I can check.
What's more important than Barrett Township then? Or a workshop, I think would be great to get some more information on that.
Okay.
Are we good on West Nile?
As good as we can be.
That's right. High Acres Park Committee is also doing a fishing contest on May 25th. And April 4th is opening day of trout and Ice Lake will be stocked for that. So High Acres Park will be stocked for the fishing contest and Ice Lake will be stocked for opening day of trout.
We'd like to do that fishing pool giveaway again this year.
Bring me up to speed. I think I.
Last year, it unfortunately was a really rainy day, so it was a low turnout for Pocono, so Pocono did the same thing.
Mhm.
But Hive to Harvest purchases every year, about 20 youth fishing poles for various ages and
And
then.
you did that at the fishing contest?
Yeah, we
or
did it at
opening
the
day of
fishing
trout?
contest. Anybody that like basically went on the Hive to Harvest page and showed us that they liked the page right there, and we gave the kids free poles, and
Was that in conjunction with the High Acres Park Committee?
it was not, but we did get the pavilion space for free because we were doing a community giveaway.
Okay.
We provided snacks and drinks for that event as well.
And you'd wanna do that on the May 25th fishing contest or the
Yep.
April 4th
The
opening
fishing
day of trout?
contest.
I say we're gonna have to get her in contact with the park committee, cause it's kind of their event, and I know
Oh,
you
yeah.
did it with them, but I don't wanna,
Last year, there was no one there except for us. It was,
oh boy.
Like
Empty.
Gerald.
Alright, Bill.
That was the event at High Acres or?
oh no, sorry, that was Ice Lake.
You were at Ice
So
Lake.
you did
Yeah.
an opening day of trout in Ice Lake.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Okay. I think we should get that on an agenda for a meeting, our next meeting.
Yeah, because that's April 4, right?
Yeah, we still have plenty of poles to give away.
Okay,
All right.
so that'll be,
And I spoke to the president of the Barrett Town, or the Broadhead Trout Unlimited, and they are gonna make a donation, that they're not quite sure how much.
great,
So every little bit helps.
I agree. Are we good on trout?
Well, Trout Unlimited also does like mentor, like they can send somebody there that can help kids, like cast lines and reel them in and bait hooks and things like that. Maybe we could see if we could get a volunteer from Trout Unlimited on that day as like a mentor.
Because I know that they have people that.
Yeah, the fishing contest, I know they have a lot of volunteers, so if Trout Unlimited wants to do April 4th at Ice Lake, you know. Mention it when they're giving us the donation or when you talk to them. American 250 PA Independence Day Parade on July 4th at 10 AM. I think it starts at the Stroudsburg High School. They asked Barrett Township to participate. So,
The Historical Society Barrett Township will be represented through the Historical Society.
I like that idea.
We're not gonna spend a lot on float, but we're gonna have people on a float.
Okay,
So George Washington, that looks like Santa Claus, and no, I won't be George. I'll be, but George and Betsy Ross on
okay.
the float.
Are you looking for volunteers to walk with the float?
We didn't really talk about folks walking with the float, but
Maybe
that's
with some
not a bad
Barrett
idea,
t-shirts.
yeah. Barrett t-shirts. Yeah, I'll bring it up
Or
at the
band.
Historical Society.
That's a big one,
Yeah,
250 is pretty cool.
We're also, if you didn't get a calendar, we have a series of programs scheduled on July 12th. There's gonna be a fife and drum corps here at Bark. And we have to thank the county and we have to thank Rotary for stepping up and helping finance some of the things that we're gonna be doing with the Historical Society. If you didn't get one of our calendars, all of the programs that we have scheduled this year on the calendar. And I didn't bring a calendar with me. But this Friday, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, if you're free, the third Friday of every month at the library, the Historical Society has a membership meeting and program. And so, this Friday is the next one. In April, they move to the evening.
Do you guys have a flyer or a printed calendar of that?
Yeah, we do, but I
Maybe
just
we'll
didn't
stick
bring
it on
Yeah,
the
that should
website,
be.
Facebook page.
You can also, you should be able to find the flyers for the programs in the bulletin board here in Park. I know there's been a few months where we forgot to get one up here.
Right.
But basically every Friday, every third Friday of the month, the Historical Society has a program at the library. And then starting in April, they'll be at 7 instead of 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Most of our membership, when I joined the board of directors, the median age dropped about 20 years, so.
Well,
So we don't like to drive at night,
So it's a lot important.
we have to get up.
we want to bring in maybe some young families.
Yes, that would be fantastic. That would be fantastic.
'Cause 7 o'clock's kind of hitting, you know,
Yeah,
bedtime.
This Friday's program is gonna be music of the 1700s, so the guy's coming and he's gonna sing and play and.
My kids were listening to the Sound of Music soundtrack all day today, so we would be all about that. But you gotta do better than 7 PM for me, that's all.
Alright,
well, it's gonna be 2 o'clock in the
Oh.
afternoon this Friday.
so. Obviously, I'm not good at following numbers. I skipped number 6. Meadow in the upper field.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
We have a announcement, unfortunately. Kelsey Bartholomew, on behalf of the park committee, we were planning to not do the fishing contest this year due to lack of attendees and not having the manpower to assist in the event. This was discussed at a recent meeting. We are only planning to do the ceremony this year.
Okay,
So we don't need to get traffic.
Oh, the weather's nice.
okay.
So that's at,
That's at the High Acres Fishing
so
Contest
we're still doing the one at.
on the
Ice Lake.
25th. Thank you, Kelsey. I appreciate you pointing that out.
Ice Lake is still on.
Ice Lake is still gonna be stocked and opening day of trout's April 4th.
Okay.
Was that it?
I saved about $600, but it's unfortunate, it's an unfortunate savings.
Alright. We're gonna go back to number 6, the meadow in the upper field of Bark. Daryl had some comments on that.
So I would just like to recommend that we do what we did last year. We left a wide perimeter mode so that if there was a need to get vehicles across there, they could get across there without driving through the tall grass. And it was mowed in plenty of time for the Halloween parade. And allowing the center of that field to become meadow did what we hoped it would do ecologically. It attracted fireflies, butterflies and birds, and so we were able to share that space.
Is there any con to letting it grow up and then just completely butchering it down before the parade? Like if, I don't know, habitat's set up there and you're driving your mower through and now all of a sudden everything that's inhabiting it, you're just chopping up? I'm just asking. I
Well,
don't think so.
And, but that's kind of the reason for waiting until September to mow it.
Okay,
Because there won't be any nesting birds. If there's any nesting meadow birds, they'll be long after their fledging period. And if there's insects that have laid eggs,
right,
for the most part, those eggs are gonna survive the mowing.
yeah,
So they'll still be there to hatch out the following year. And it needs to be maintained. You can't have a meadow and not mow it.
right,
Because if you don't mow it, in 5 years, it's scrubby shrub, and in 10 years, it's forest.
Correct.
So,
correct. So you mow it in.
So that's part of maintaining it, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I said last year I'm not in favor of it, but again, we're a board of, board of us and we got public. That's why we're talking about it. Sam?
Sam Jones here. The proper way of maintaining a meadow is to use a sickle board, not a mower. Because when you're thrashing everything up, The only thing you're doing is creating compost in there that will actually kill your eggs and everything. If you take a sickle bar and you cut everything, whether it's by hand or with a power sickle bar, everything lays over.
I think
And
the
it
hard
allows
part
the-
is
The top section of it to dry.
we're trying to multi-use it though, so then we're gonna try to use it as a field with all that debris.
But I'm just
lying
saying, you
there.
guys are trying to figure out the proper way.
Right,
to do
right,
it.
no, I
The proper way
understood,
is
for
to
sure.
Yeah, thank you.
And I will say I'm the guy that cuts my grass 3 times a week, so to me, you see beauty and I see ugly, so I guess, maybe the.
Darrell and I had a little bone of contention on the meadow, but I just want to speak to it again. I do thank you that it was mowed for the parade. But I know they're looking at having other events here at Bark that
Right.
may need that upper field. So I just want to make sure that there's not an issue that if there's an event in July, that field can still be sickled or mowed in July. I'm not against meadows in that, just to give you, my personal is that we have thousands of acres around us that is all open space, Promised Land State Park, the state game lands, there's a lot of meadows around, and we paid, $1 million or more for this building and what's in it, and the building and the property is such a great property that's usable, that we don't have too many grass fields that we can use for events, whether it be concerts, the parade, car shows and that. And I think that's kind of what this property was built for. I mean, you pay that much money to have the meadow grow in the front, which also it's coming into the building. And I mean, a lot of people I heard it says it looks unkempt, that it's not mowed and it's the first thing you see when you drive into the building. But if you guys decide on that, I just would really, implore that, if there's another event, that we may need that parking space.
Right.
For a community event. Thanks.
Yeah,
Or maybe do something like where it's just, so many feet off the tree line is
Trust me,
meadow, or, sorry.
no, I get it, I
Not
think
that
we
we're
did
gonna-
mow it back. My idea is we did buy a lot of open space property for meadows and conservation and stuff like that. I don't necessarily think our original intention or idea was to turn Bark's lawn into a meadow. I do think it's handy for, like you say, you can observe it easier, but like behind the dog park, don't we have a lot of meadow there?
We have, Huckleberry,
bush,
Blueberry
Huckleberry,
fields,
blueberry. Cause I know when I first bought up there and used to hike it, it was actually mowed. I haven't been up there in probably 5 years.
Right, and it does need to be mowed again,
Circle.
right? Well, this is a different issue up there because it's Woody's,
Right,
so we need to remove. Right, and we got all the information from the University of Maine for maintaining your wild blueberry and huckleberry
Wow.
fields.
nice.
For maintaining those fields up there. But on our open space properties, we do not have a lot of meadows. I wouldn't call what's up at Ice Lake or up at the Grable Family Preserve a meadow. And we do mow the edge. It's not, the grass doesn't grow all the way up to 390.
Right.
It's at least 50 feet back from 390 still gets mowed.
Okay.
And it was 30 foot wide down the edge of the field, all the way around. It was just the center of the field was let go, and we put, Purple Martin house up, which attracted purple martins, which we're lucky to have. We attracted bluebirds. So as a functional ecosystem, it did what it was designed to do. And in the time that we've been in this building, we haven't used that space for anything else. And again, the nice thing about being meadow is that if we absolutely had to do something else with it, it can be mowed.
Okay.
And if you wanna see what it could look like, and you go up to Skytop on the end of
Dutch Hill.
Dutch Hill Road, they have a meadow on the left-hand side as you're going through to back up to 390. And you can see all different wildflowers, and it really is beautiful, and they do have paths through it so people can walk. We get a lot of people that want to walk here that used to do it before we bought the property, and now they would have a place where they can walk up and around and. So that's another reason
So
to
you're
keep
saying
that.
they can't walk it when it's mowed?
No,
No,
they
they
walk
Walk
through
it
the
and
mowed
see
path.
the meadow.
Right, they
Could
walk.
They'd have something instead of walking on the,
Okay, I got it now.
I just wanna make sure, I know there's a large concert that's being planned for this property in July. That is probably 99% sure it's gonna need that upper field, so.
I heard 3,000 people
And
possibly.
absolutely necessary that we need to mow it, that it could be mowed.
Do we want to mow it in July if we let, like, that would be the irresponsibleness of the nesting and the eggs and.
After July 15, what's the date?
25th.
Yeah, so July 15th for nesting birds, for nesting meadow birds, July 15th. After that, the Nature Conservancy owns the Blakesley Farm in the Cherry Valley. It is still a working farm. The Blakesleys still live on the farm. Bobolinks and meadowlarks are ground nesting meadow birds that nest on the farm. And as long as they don't make the first hay cutting until after July 15th, then those birds are good to go. So,
Yeah, I think like what Bill said, we're trying to promote the property to be used also, not grown up. So that would be one of my things. Somebody might drive by and see a meadow and never think to say, hey, can we rent that space for a weekend? Cause they don't wanna rent a meadow. So that's another concern. I don't know how we get through it other than just kind of talking through it and pros and cons.
Can you put it at high acres farm?
I honestly don't understand why we don't let portions of the ball field grow up. Because we can mow that for, I think they put bounce houses in the fields and maybe pony rides. But the ball field would be a perfect place for a meadow. Or is there?
well, I would say let's wait until we actually have people that are interested in using that
We do,
upper field.
or I think we're getting there.
3,000 people is a lot of people.
That's rumors that I heard.
Wow.
That's what they're hoping.
Oh gosh.
Do we have do we have parking for that kind of? But I'm wondering.
I think that's for another meeting. Are we good with the meadow? I mean, we're not making decisions today, we're just opening conversations. So the building and tenant supervisor assignment in our reorganization meeting, number 7 was to appoint or reappoint departmental administrators, representatives, or liaisons. So that's basically a responsibility of all our supervisors. And I've talked about this before, and obviously we can't vote on it, but I'm gonna put it to vote at the next meeting. So I wanna talk about it. So when we had the office over across from Lewis's, my building, our old office, we had a liaison of the office as one of the supervisors. When we moved here, we kept it as that one supervisor overseeing the offices, the building, the maintenance staff in here, and the property. So I'm going to propose at the next meeting that we create a position and appoint one of us as that liaison to the board. So they report back that, hey, the water's running in the back door, the back door drifts and freezes shut, we might need this snow blower. It's separate from the supervisor, Daryl, what you're doing is the offices. So I just wanted to have that conversation of pros and cons of that. Pros is it divides up responsibilities on us. Currently, right now, we're all just kind of chipping in wherever it be. So I just think it would be better to have one liaison, so we kind of all know who's checking it out, going from there. And that goes right down to, we have hot water issues, we have a door issue, I think you met with Adam and Amy to see some solutions. We've had multiple issues, so it would just be one contact person for that.
So one contact for the physical
Right,
structure and one contact for the staff.
right, like, and ideas of, that could be made is like just a maintenance checklist for a maintenance crew, you know, that supervisor can be in charge of that. The two maintenance full-time people, you know, liaison to them.
Yeah. I think
And
it's
then
good.
even ongoing projects, you know, if we do end up, you know, cutting the field, not cutting the field, who's gonna tell Morgan and, Lewis, you know, just kind of, so they're not just getting it from every angle, kind of the idea of that.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'm good.
Thank you. So that'll be on the next meeting's agenda. I'm gonna skip number 12 towards the bottom because number 13 kind of goes in line. Daryl, at the reorganization meeting, we kind of had a back and forth over who overseen the office. And the compromise was between Patty, me, and obviously Pam couldn't be because she would have overseen herself. We compromised with Daryl, and I know in the conversations recently, you said, I'm ready to switch out on that because you do the
Yeah,
road
and-
crew also.
Yeah, well, road crew and plus I have, you know, my weekdays are scheduled.
Right,
And obviously Billy has greater flexibility.
Yeah.
With his schedule between 8 and 4 o'clock every day,
right.
to work with the office staff. So I would be happy to have Billy, and I've had discussions with the office staff
Right.
about this. To have Billy come in and be the office liaison with
Yep.
the staff.
So I think at the next meeting, along with the last subject I just talked about, we'll put the office liaison and we'll put those up for vote.
Good.
So then that goes to the allocation of supervisor's duty. We didn't have a board, well, we had a board of 4 then, and then Pam resigned, so if you look, anything that Pam was appointed to, so she's the liaison to the fire company. We're gonna have to replace that. She's the liaison to the Hikers Park Committee. We're gonna have to replace that, so there's 4 positions we're gonna appoint. Plus, I feel, you know, we kinda gotta divide and conquer, so we could bring Sean into the mix. Or even bring them all back up, you know, cause we have the admin office, the police department, the fire company, the maintenance, the park committee, High Acres Park Committee, the COG representative, the library board, EAC, the ambulance, the architectural review committee, and then PARC. So I think we just gotta kind of reshift now that we're a board of 5.
How many of those positions were her role as supervisor? And how many were
This is 100% supervisor.
all
discussion.
supervisor?
This
So
is
even-
all liaisons.
Liaisons of the fire department, all of that?
Yeah,
Can
so
be covered by like the new operations director? Is any?
No,
of that?
this is all supervisors.
Got it.
So this supervisor goes to that and then brings that information back to these meetings, like the police.
Got it, yeah, like a direct-
Yeah, exactly. So I'll jump back into the SOS pet rescue event. We had an outfit reach out to us. SOS Pet Rescue. They wanna do neutering, spaying and microchipping, sometime during the summer. They've had 4 events in the past where they serviced, over 100 animals in each event. They would need a room, an inside room with a separate entry and exit door, because I guess they bring one, call it dog in at one time, and then they take them out an opposite door as another one's going in, because you essentially have a line of animals, and then you have an entry and exit.
I don't think it was spaying and neutering though. I thought it was vaccines.
Oh, I'm sorry, you are 100% correct.
Because we don't want people coming
No, no,
from
no.
surgery
I'm sorry,
somewhere.
I'm sorry, I had that completely wrong, it's vaccines and microchips.
Well,
We could use a lot of the other, but that's in the back, that's my disaster.
Brain surgery in the kitchen.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, so I think it's gonna be a rotation, and Patty came up with a list of questions that she got, I think, between you and Pat McCabe.
Yeah, I used to work for Pat McCabe at the vet, so.
So will they have liability insurance in case of an accident? Loose pet or pet reaction? Yes, they have liability insurance. Will they have a licensed vet giving the vaccines? Yes. What vaccines? It says rabies and distemper maybe?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, there's there's a parvo vaccine, you know.
Yeah,
Just
so it sounded
about
like they're standard
doing.
ones and they'll advertise it. And then you said, in case of reaction, do they have resuscitation equipment? They said, yes, they have that and allergic reaction drugs.
Okay,
Records of vaccines, expiration dates, manufacturers, lot numbers. Yes, they do it through the vet and the owner's paperwork and waiver, and everybody signs a waiver. And then they file all that paperwork. What records do they keep as far? This is what records do they keep as far as animals owners and release forms? And they said they answered that before, please see above.
okay,
Is it open to everybody? Yes, and Patty asked if a donation is required, I said, no, no donation is required. And they want inside space, and I think this was to decide if this is something we wanted. If we do want it, I'm gonna ask them to come to a supervisors meeting and then we could vote on it. But I did get those answers for you.
that's great, because I called Pat since she had experience to find out what exactly
Mhm.
they would need, and unfortunately, she can't offer it as a business because she can't afford to just do it for free, but
Right,
they get donations and they can do this, so it's a great idea.
I think it's a
Just wanted
great
to make sure that
idea,
it was safe.
and I brought it up if, like, what her preferred time was, and she said summer and on the weekend, so I thought that was great. Because the school will be in recess this year, you won't have all the families and kids and stuff around. And then we'd have more options of space, so we could kind of fit them in. So if we think that's something we wanna provide, I'll ask her to come in with some dates and
Mhm.
present to us.
I think it's great.
Great. So the Barrett Township website, we all agree that it needs a makeover and we should get quotes and stuff like that. So I slowly started reaching out and opening up the conversation with a local company, and then I realized I know nothing about a website. So they're asking me all these questions, and I think we have to come up with a scope of work. And we have to work through that, so when I put it out for bid and estimates, they're all on the same page. And they were asking me questions that I had no clue about, so I don't know how we're gonna work through coming up with a scope of work to put a website out for bid, or. You know, do we lean on community members, do we lean on the people and just say, hey, we want the information we got on our website, but better? That's kind of was my stumbling block when I started engaging on, hey, how much is this gonna cost you? And they asked me about pages and links and this and that, and I really have no clue.
Does anybody have any experience
I could probably
making
help you out with that a
websites?
little bit.
Okay. So I would love to work through, to our next workshop and come up with a scope of work that we can put this out for bid, because I don't think it's gonna cost as much as what we thought. There were some numbers thrown out, you know, $3,000 to $5,000 a year and maybe $1,200 a year thereafter for maintenance. And it's gonna be built to be upkept within our office on the back end very easily. But again, I wanna make sure when I put a bid out and we hire a company, that all the bids are the same. We're not getting apples, oranges, bananas.
And you have the list of questions that they wanted from you?
I don't have that. It was a verbal conversation, and then I just realized we need to just talk.
I'm guessing they probably wanted to know like what platform it was built on, like how.
I don't know.
Might wanna reach out to ESU or another.
Well, and I was thinking PSATs too, if they had some sort of platform and template, you
Yeah,
know, that they could say, okay, well, here's our baseline. Scope of work for a website.
Yeah.
You know,
take a look at the other townships perhaps and ask.
yeah, and I did, and I made a list of who built every townships bordering us and which ones I like more or less. You know, but it's like either a township has less than we need or has way more than we need. So I don't wanna say, hey, I want something between this and this, and then have three companies come back from 2,000 to 10,000.
Yeah, well, it depends on how many pages you want too,
There
so,
you go, that was a question.
yeah.
So,
That's really where the expense comes from, is how many pages you want,
Right.
how you want them to connect to each other. So I would still go with what's the best website you like.
yeah,
And we will scale it back just based on size.
right. I agree. I agree, but we.
And the
have-
other key is that it has to be something that we in the office can get in and
Correct.
easily. It's gotta be very user friendly.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Did we get to the end of it? I don't think we need an executive session, do we?
You didn't do holding tanks, did you? Or did I miss that?
Boy, I'm terrible.
Number one.
Number one, went right into the sign ordinance because it was on the top of my file. Holding tanks, I know that that was talked about and I reached out to Deanna and she said that we didn't make any decision on it, so. I didn't know where we were at with that or the history of it, so I wanted to be brought up to speed.
Well, we were waiting actually on Deanna's comments,
Okay.
which we now got in this copy that's in the red, right?
Right,
So, again, the holding tanks, part of the issue with, Canadensis is the lack of adequate space for on-lot septic for some of those properties down there. And the question came up whether or not a holding tank ordinance would be sufficient to allow those properties to be redeveloped until a more permanent solution could be attained.
right.
So,
So where it struck out to me as being very important is if you get a property that has an existing septic system and it's completely functioning and then fails, and there is no alternative or option, or it's in the middle of the winter. You know, we have the pumping ordinance and we have that, or pumping agreement that we talked about recently, you know, and I gotta think that rather than condemning a building or abandoning it or displacing a business or a family, if they chose to put in a holding tank and pump it, I think it would be important to have the ordinance on the books. The idea is right now we don't have an ordinance, so it's not allowed. So if your septic fails and you say, I wanna hire a septic truck to come in and pump every 2 weeks, you're not allowed. Unless you do, you know, separate agreements. But I think that maybe we should keep moving forward on this ordinance to allow some of these properties to be used.
How would that be regulated? Because people.
So and that's what the ordinance is gonna work through. So there would be you know, you would get a permit. They would, you know, inspect it and stuff like that. I think it requires an exterior alarm that is audible and visible that comes on at 80%. I think other suggestions are the township has money in escrow, so if they don't do it for any reason, we can do it on their dime, not to the taxpayer's dime. And I think they have to turn in pumping receipts on a regular basis. So
And what if they don't?
I'm gonna,
He's following.
I mean, same thing as a failed septic run on top of the ground, then we pump it on their dime. They're supposed to renew the escrow, as soon as they don't, that's a condemned structure. Same.
So something that I've talked to a few people, including Michael Alvaretti, about solutions for down in Canadensis. DEP actually recognizes it's not Pennsylvania DEP, but they actually recognize a type of septic system that's a zero effluent septic system. That maybe us as a group should maybe put some pressure on the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental of maybe getting those septic systems approved because they're zero effluent. They actually work. They've been using them all over the entire world.
Can you send me information on that?
I
Or
can.
they're not
So
familiar?
they basically, what they do is they filter the water through coconut fiber.
Mhm.
And then they use reverse osmosis to
Right.
evaporate the water at a very high rate of speed. And blow the water off in steam where it doesn't enter,
Yeah, I mean, if that was an approved system through DEP, that would be awesome, you know, this is for the cases where. You know, there's hardship, there's not an option until something like that is approved, you know,
so maybe that's something we could actually become a staple to, like.
A pilot.
For this,
Right,
for the situation that we have.
yeah, understood,
You know
that,
what I mean? So,
Great idea.
I mean, there shouldn't be any reason why that this ordinance isn't looked at, because DEP recognizes a holding tank
I
ordinance.
know,
So there isn't any reason why it shouldn't be looked at.
right. And I mean, a perfect example of it, and it's, there's not even in-ground septics allowed, is every cabin around the lake and up and down Promised Land. They're all on holding tanks. You're not even allowed a septic system.
Where are these properties?
So I'm not even saying we're building it for a specific property. I'm saying that, not, say my office was on a third of an acre and my septic failed and no place perked for a new septic. Now I just abandon the building and walk away? Or do I pull it in the holding tank and be responsible to have it pumped? Right now, we're not allowed to do the holding tank option.
Would it depend on what type of business is in there or what?
I don't think it should depend on really anything.
Just an option.
I think it should just be an option. If you have a failure or no option, well, I don't know why it would depend on what it is. If you're willing to pump it and haul it away.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just my opinion.
But I think unless they've changed, when we started this, DEP was saying that it was a temporary solution, not a permanent solution.
I think that's up to us. I mean, all of Promised Land's a permanent solution, and that's DEP regulated and allowed.
Does it matter that they're not year round?
I don't know, I think those camps have been there for a long time, they might be grandfathered. And I think you can do new construction.
So here's,
So, I mean.
Unless
it's
DEP changed
400
it.
gallons per day,
yeah,
the maximum.
I'm gonna jump to Krista real quick.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure that we do our due diligence when adopting something like that, because there's certain properties where the property might be split in a weird way over a creek. It's like that on the Nominalk Road. It's kind of like a triangle, and the creek runs through the triangle. So I wouldn't want to see, say like, oh, well, it's an acre, so, you know, it falls within a certain parameter. I would wanna make sure that there's sufficient distance off of the creek if we're going to do something like that.
So I think the great thing about a holding tank is it never puts anything in the ground. It's simply like a camper.
Right, but if there's a failure of the.
Understood.
That would be my concern.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think all that's regulated with
You're gonna have a
DEP and the
setback
setbacks.
regardless.
I did pull the Jefferson Township and Lackawanna County has a holding tank ordinance. And Westfall Township, I just did a Google search and pulled those. So the hard part is okay, we say it's temporary. What if they could never, ever get a septic system? So we just say, okay, rip your building down, now we have a vacant lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, if somebody has a lot that doesn't perk,
No, I'm talking about a building with an existing septic system. That septic system fails. And they don't have viable property, or the property does not perk and allow a septic system. We're gonna displace that business or family. And not allow them the option of the holding thing.
I think it's different if you're gonna put buildings up where they're
I'm
not.
not saying put it buildings up. Existing building. Talking
That's a tough question.
business or building, I just have a hard time not giving somebody the option.
They're willing to get it pumped out?
Right?
Isn't that where the grandfathering clause comes in and we're a small community? And then we take that into account, how often?
Without an ordinance, we really can't allow it. Because it's not allowed in our regulations.
Do we have to have the ordinance to make sure we have access to making those decisions?
Is it that it's not allowed because it's not in the ordinance, or?
So kind of,
Because in standards, if you say something's not allowed, you have to say, well, show me where it
right,
says it's not
yeah,
allowed.
definitely. For my
Not the other way
understanding is to allow a holding tank, we have to have the ordinance. Maybe I'm wrong, I'll follow
I
up.
think it's.
Right, well,
If
we
you want
have,
to control the holding tank, you have to have an ordinance.
I know they've been declined. There's no provision in our.
right, and it's the Act 537 ordinance that we have, which is for wastewater disposal and management. So this would actually dovetail with that ordinance, which doesn't allow them.
So right now it says in the ordinance that it's not.
You can't have it just a holding tank.
Yes, if it already says it.
And believe me, I'm not looking to reinvent the wheel, other townships have it, DEP allows it, we just have to figure out how we're gonna allow it, or if we're going to allow it, but I definitely have a hard time, like I say, displacing a building or walking away from a building where they wanna put it in a sealed contained tank and then have somebody come in and pump it every time it's full. Like, maybe that's what, well, we could talk about existing buildings. You know, I think that's why the village or the wizard or whatever we call it, I think that's why that's abandoned.
That's what we've been told.
Right.
We've been told.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a difference between something with an existing structure and one that's just a vacant. And
Yeah, I
And
don't.
when we first looked at this, we discussed that.
Yeah.
This isn't for new construction. This isn't to go buy
Gotcha.
a lot in a wetland and say you're
Throw
gonna
a
build
tank
on
in.
this wetland now because we're putting a holding tank in.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and it says the maximum flow, so you're not gonna do it, you know, a tiny tank for a 12 bedroom house and it'd be running out. I mean, it's pretty good, and our engineer gave us some good recommendations and so I don't know if this is something that we want Deanna to put her recommendations in, or if we wanna go through it. It looks pretty close to me.
Again, it was another one that was pretty close when,
Right, and this is one that's already redlined. You know, DEP outline standards for holding tanks. Does this only mean we're gonna do temporary? You know, again, it's a hard thing to say, okay, well, you could put your holding tank in and invest all that money. But in a year, you're gonna have to move out, and rip your house down and get rid of the holding tank. Like, I don't know what the real answer is, or do the people wait for, is temporary until central sewer comes through in 100 years? I don't know what we deem temporary. Nate?
Just 2 cents, a neighbor story about septic, neighbor A had, I live on Treachery where there's almost, very steep hill. So neighbor A didn't have enough room for his septic. Neighbor B ended up allowing that guy to put his sand mound on their property. So I don't know if that factors into this logic here, but
I mean, I definitely think that they're gonna exercise all abilities. Nobody wants to pay to pump a tank. You know, every month, and if they can buy a piece of land, make a deal, this isn't like your first option, like, my septic failed, I'm just gonna put it in a tank and pump it forever. This is kind of as you exhaust options before you pack up your family and move out and abandon a building. Is that kind of what you guys?
Yeah.
Think this is? It's not like a.
No, it's exactly what it is.
I think I had more questions on, once it's submitted to us and the time it gets approved, on how it's submitted, so if it's getting submitted to us, is there some kind of drawing that would be provided, like say, showing the location? So one for the SEO that we choose to
Yeah.
do that inspection, they're gonna know where that's at.
Yeah, so I
And
think
on-
they apply for a permit, and with
Yeah.
a permit comes a drawing, or even call it a design.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you have the inlet, you have to show no outlet, you're gonna have to have the electrical inspected, you're gonna have to have that alarm on the outside that's audible and visible. There's gonna have to be, inspections on that, so I do think that a drawing goes hand in hand with that through the SEO application. And that also goes with, you know, that pumping agreement that says at 80% I'm pumping it, there's gonna be an escrow with the township. So I think all that comes hand in hand with an application before it's approved. But we do have to remember, approval of this is gonna be very time sensitive. Because it's almost gonna be an emergency situation, because they're gonna be in a failure. You know, so I think although we need to require that, we don't need to. Literally, it's a tank in the ground. We don't need to send them the planning commission and engineer, review, because time is of immense essence.
I think at least the hand drawing,
Oh,
and then
for
at least
sure.
on that quick check, we can make sure it's not in a floodway, floodplain,
Yep.
utility easement, wetlands.
Right, and I gotta think a lot of these instances, they're already gonna have some sort of tank there. You know, it's not like they're gonna have no tank on any torture system unless it's a cesspool, and then you'd almost have to condemn that, so it makes sense to kind of go where existing equipment is. But I agree, there definitely has to be a plot plan.
And I think the copy that this has with the little boxes with things changed,
Yeah,
in the previous looking at it, we had changed 4017 holding tanks to not say new, and this says in this copy for new or existing construction.
4017.
On page 3.
Yep.
For new or existing construction.
Yeah,
Yeah, good
we have
catch. So
removed that.
How I got this copy is I just reached out to Deanna and I said, hey, where are we at the holding tank? She said, okay, I'll give it to you. That's how I got it. I
Okay,
don't know where,
yeah, we had,
so that's great. That definitely has
Just
to
need
be
to
changed.
remove for no.
so this is some of the changes, and we have, and it said temporary on the old copy, and this one doesn't say temporary anymore. So I need to look at
Yeah,
this
definitely.
copy more closely.
No, I agree. We just gotta keep it on these workshops and kind of work towards it because we already have abandoned buildings that I feel like could be septic issues. We're not confirmed, but, it could happen. The 390 business corridor isn't necessarily septic friendly.
So is that where we're looking, 390?
It's not really, looking, if your house where, you know, lives and you have no provisions, you exhausted all your options, you cannot get a septic system. That's where the holding tank ordinance comes in. I don't care where you are in Barrett Township. I don't wanna displace somebody with no option to live in their home or operate their business. Because of a holding tank. Put it in the tank, haul it away. I think there could be responsible uses there.
What did they do with Ray and Darius that they?
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
What they do with Ray and Derek, she asked.
What was wrong with it?
Water in the basement,
I don't know that.
septic behind it, septic behind the garage, septic behind all the way down.
I
I
don't,
worked there for years. We had to put planks in the basement to wall.
right. I don't know if that's part of the holding tank ordinance.
I don't know, I just wondered because I know it was
Right,
not available to do anything with for years.
right.
And then all of a sudden, it's business place.
Good value. I know it looks pretty good now. I went and paid my taxes. But that's nice.
And I like to see it.
Me too. These abandoned buildings or ideas of them started. Did I get it all? Any other comments? Questions?
Just one question, do you need a fishing license at Ice Lake and Acres?
Yes.
If you're under 16.
If
Or
you're
over
under 16, you don't
If
need
you're
a
under
fishing.
16, you're okay.
Okay.
Paul, you need a license.
16 what?
Thank you.
If that's everything.
All
I
right,
appreciate
thanks a lot,
everybody coming.
everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.